I walked through the doors of Al-Anon 51 years ago. The history that I am about to read to you was taken by Laura when she was able to sit down with Joan St. Marie and I and tell us a story about how Al-Anon began. And from her tape, I wrote out the story of what she was telling us. The history of Tuesday morning Al-Anon. Laura first heard about Al-Anon at Ravenna while attending an AA meeting with her husband. An Al-Anon meeting started and was held once a month at the same time as the AA meeting, so she began attending while her husband Jim was at the AA meeting. When it was announced that Niles was starting an Al-Anon meeting, Laura started attending the Niles meeting on Wednesday evenings when she could get a ride. She was happy because it was held every week. She started thinking about the need for a daytime meeting because some of the women's husbands were still drinking and they found it difficult to get out at night. She started checking around the summer of 1967. Laura listed her name in the Al-Anon World Service Directory forewarned, although she was attending the Niles meeting. A lady named Helen wrote to Ann Landers, newspaper columnist, about her husband's drinking problem. Ann Landers sent Helen Laura's name and phone number, so Helen started calling Laura. One day, Helen called Laura and said she was in the minister's office at First Presbyterian Church, where Helen attended. The minister wanted to talk to Laura and ask her some questions. So the next day, Helen picked Laura up and they met with the minister here at First Presbyterian Church. Laura explained what Al-Anon was about and why the need for the daytime meeting. The minister told them he had to get the okay from the board of directors, but he was sure it was all right. That was the first week in November, so the next Tuesday, the second week in November 1967, was the first meeting. Laura rounded up as many women as she could. Some of those she described were Helen, who was brand new, Virginia, her husband was in AA, and Nola was attending the Niles meeting. She said there were about 8 members. Joan St. Marie was the first member who walked in her words, without being pulled in. The group had its growing problems. The summer of 1971, membership had dropped to only 2, and Laura and Nola met in the parking lot deciding on what to do. They decided to hang in there for a little while longer. The fall of 1971, the meeting began to grow and took off from then. Some who came at that time were Marion C., Joan Q., Lucia F., Bonnie S., Jackie Wells, Catherine Sumner, Ruth Hutchison, Ruth Barley, and Joan St. Marie came back. Joan was the last original member, and she passed away October 25th, 2015. It was soon evident that there was a need for babysitting, and with the church's permission to use the nursery for preschool children only, Marion's teenage daughter, Kathy, was our first babysitter. We then hired Mrs. Belay, who was a senior citizen, and she came faithfully for about 20 years to babysit many of our children. Our Tuesday morning group met upstairs on the second floor for about 15 years. Then we moved downstairs to a meeting room that could hold more people. We are the only group in the area that has met in the same church that we started in. We are most grateful to First Presbyterian Church. In October 1973, Jackie Wells, Catherine Sumner, Laura Tobin, and Nola Vivian started the Thursday night meeting. So that meeting is a spin-off of the Tuesday morning group. There was also an Alateen group for several years, which has since disbanded. Some of us had the privilege of knowing Laura. She was a sightless person who was full of wisdom and compassion. She helped hundreds and hundreds of people through the years and was always there with a listening ear to any who would call her day and night. Laura Tobin Meek passed away December 11, 2001. She left a legacy for us to carry the message to the family members of alcoholics by her example. Ruth Varley was a very active, long-time member of our group. She was the first person who started giving hugs at the meeting. She was a warm, lovable person who just bubbled over with love and fun wherever she went. She was always smiling, no matter how she felt. She was an example to us all. Because she hugged us, we are a hugging group. Ruth passed away January 3rd, 2012. We miss her, but we remember her with our hugs. And if you haven't had a hug today, don't leave here without one. In October 2001, a group of core members of Tuesday morning met and decided to start a 12-step study group as an addition to the Tuesday meeting. We met on Friday mornings at 10 a.m. and was very successful and beneficial to all those who attended. Due to the fact that our beloved Jim Georges was the backbone of that meeting, and he passed away November 4th, 2014, after our anniversary. We have found it necessary to cancel the Friday meeting. Jim was a young 91-year-old and was a faithful member for over 42 years. Some call it the big meeting beyond. We have had other faithful and loving members like J.R. Miller and our beloved Marilyn Burnfield, who passed away December 13th, 2020. Join that big meeting. We would like to extend an invitation to anyone to come and join us on Tuesdays at 9:30 a.m. and experience our warm welcome and personal spiritual growth. I'd like to add that our Kathy, who was our first babysitter, is here today with me. She was my bride. So